The Fed increased rates at a fractional level bit by bit over the last while. The rates at which the banks loan to people have increased. The rates at which the banks pay people for their deposits hasn't increased to the same degree. Money is being made at the expense of the individual. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to talk about this issue. I have others as well. Let's begin with this. Looking at the average quarterly cost of interest-bearing deposits for 16 large US banks, okay? What you're seeing here on the left-hand side would be starting in 2012 up to the present day. And what we can tell is that while banks have been able to give people a certain rate, they have not done so. They have been using their ability to leverage what the central banks do and been making extra profit from it. That's generally the way it works. The Federal Reserve in the US, for example, will increase rates, so therefore savings on their deposits should go up as a result. But that's not happening. People are basically stuck getting no money. They don't get anything from savings. That's why they're going ahead and investing into, let's say, stock market or mutual funds or anything else, because they want some sort of return. But if your savings account was getting you, let's say, 5%, I think a lot of people would probably choose to go the route of the savings versus the stock market, because they can say, look, I don't trust my money with the bank manager necessarily, and I just want to be safe and secure, and I'll just put it in the bank. I mean, that's the general consensus for most people. Not the investment companies, not the hedge funds, not the sophisticated investors, but the average guy, that he would want to just take his money and put it into the bank and make 5%. But that's not happening these days. The market doesn't allow for that. And what we have seen here is that the banks have been making extra profit. Does that surprise anyone? All right, let's look at this. You can see that in the vault, they say total deposits at US commercial banks. Lo and behold, increasing year over year over year. Now, while a lot of people have been taking their money out of the banking system, we can see that there is more money being deposited, there is more money being shuffled around, and that will ultimately lead to a crisis into the future. What I would say is that, look, there have been more deposits, yet the bank should be giving better rates, but they're not. They're not doing that. They're simply taking it and they're making more money from it. Now, as a business, do you blame them? Perhaps not, but there should be some sort of rate being set here or some sort of competitiveness, but ultimately it's not, because all the banks generally use the same policies. This right here is a sad and sort of terrible image to see, but this is Venezuela. These are the individuals who have been sort of honorable and valiant warriors here, and they have been given their for their good deeds. They've been given these gifts, and that includes toilet paper. Literally given toilet paper. And that's when you know the situation has become dire. This is some photographs that I found here. There are 4 images here. There are some other images showing you the packs that they were given, close-up images. And unfortunately, this is the situation. Look at this. U.S. securities laws may apply to offers, sales, and trading of interests in virtual organizations. And they are talking about digital currencies, cryptocurrencies. This is directly from the SEC's website. And essentially what they're saying is, if you work in the digital realm, you have to abide by the same policies. This goes for ICOs. So if your ICO makes money, you have to go ahead and claim that. They have to go through the scrutiny of all the SEC regulations and everything else. This is a bad news, I think, because you don't want this market regulated at all. That's the whole point of it. You want it to be the Wild West. You want there to be risk. You want that there, and you want the government to be shut out entirely. I don't really like this. I think this is bad news ultimately. Maybe it makes it more, let's say, mainstream and professional and everything else if everything's all regulated and this and that. but it's not good because in the cryptos, you want that volatility. You want that ability if, something really bad happens that maybe it'll drop by 50% overnight. That risk there is what this market is all about. And the more it becomes mainstream, the worse it will become. That's the way I see it anyway. I don't think there should be regulations based on it. I think it should just be allowed to be free market. Unfortunately, if the SEC gets their hands on everything, it's not going to be good for the future. Bolivia's president declares total independence from the World Bank and the IMF. And essentially what he says here, I'm not going to get into the article, but many years ago we were fully dependent on these organizations, and today we are totally independent. And that is so good to hear, that a country actually comes out and says, we don't want these supranational entities ruling and controlling us. This is terrible. And yet we have so many countries that just go ahead with it. They want that. They say it's good. They help us. They support us. Look at Greece. The people have decided that they don't want the troika, yet the government just goes ahead with it anyway. That's the way this works. They don't have a say. People don't have a say in all of this, but it's good news to see Bolivia turning this around, at least on the surface level. And so that's a little bit of good news with all the doom and gloom. And this here I thought was very important as well. What you're looking at with the red line is the Fed funds rate, and the green line is the US Financial Conditions Index. And while we have increasing rates, which should be causing the market to be less steady, should be causing the market to start saying, okay, now we know this can't be sustained, we will have to be a little more cautious and everything else. In fact, it's gone quite the opposite direction. The US Financial Conditions Index is showing everything's doing great. Everything is just fine. No need to worry. And the reason why is because the market knows that as soon as this comes down a certain percentage, whatever that may be, QE4 will be engaged, interest rates will be brought down, and the market will be rescued once again. The only thing that people don't realize is that there is a domino effect. Look at what happened previously. They reacted too slowly, they didn't react properly, and as a result, you had bankruptcies, you had takeovers, you had trillions of dollars that are being basically eviscerated, and in some ways, if you look at it, really transferred. But ultimately, the people weren't better off. I mean, there's a lot of people now that have incredible amount of poverty that we are experiencing now in these major cities. And look at it. Look at this. This is showing you that we are ultimately headed for the same direction, but yet we're putting our blinders on. And I really don't like to see that, but that's the way it is. So if you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. And last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. Check those out at Amazon. The links are in the description below. And if you want free information, free ebooks, I got a free e-course, so much more at my website, themoneygps.com.